This poem is The Man from Snowy River. It's by Banjo Patterson, an Australian fellow who wrote it in the first part of the 20th century. Maybe you saw the movie, pretty good movie. There was movement at the station, for the word had passed around that the colt from Old Regret had got away and joined the wild bush horses. He was worth 1,000 pounds, and all the cracks had gathered to the fray. Every tried and noted rider from the stations near and far had mustered to the homestead overnight, for the bushmen love hard riding where the wild bush horses are, and the stock horse snuffs the battle with delight. There was Harrison, who'd made his pile when Pardon won the cup. The old man with his hair as white as snow, but few could ride beside him when his blood was fairly up. He would go wherever man and horse could go. And Clancy, from the overflow, had come to lend a hand. No better rider ever held the reins, nor ever horse could throw him while the saddle girths would hold. He had learned to ride while droving on the plains. And one was there, a stripling, on a small and weedy beast, something like a racehorse, undersized, with a touch of Timor pony, 3/4 thoroughbred at least, and such as are by mountain horsemen prized. He was hard and tough and wiry, just the sort that won't say die. There was courage in his quick, impatient tread, and he bore the badge of gameness in his bright and fiery eye, and the proud and lofty bearing of his head. But still so small and weedy, one might doubt his power to stay. The old man said, "That horse will never do for a hard and tiring gallop. Lad, you'd better stop away. Those hills are far too rough for such as you." So he waited, sad and wistful. Only Clancy stood his friend. "I think we ought to let him come," he said, "for I warrant he'll be with us when he's needed at the end, for both his horse and he are mountain bred. He hails from Snowy River, up on Kosciuszko's side, where the hills are twice as steep and twice as rough, and a horse's hoofs strike firelight from the flint stones every stride. There, the man who holds his own is good enough." So he went. They found the horses by the big mimosa clump. They turned and raced off towards the mountain's brow, and the old man gave his orders. "Boys, go at them from the jump. No use to try for fancy riding now. And Clancy, you must wheel them. Try to wheel them to the right. Ride boldly, lads, and never fear the spills, for never yet was horseman could keep that mob in sight if once they gained the shelter of those hills." So Clancy rode to wheel them. He was riding on the wing, where the best and boldest riders take their place, and he raced his stock horse past them, and he made the ranges ring with his stock whip as he met them face to face. Then they halted for a moment while he swung the dreaded lash, but they saw their well-loved mountain full in view, and they raced beneath the stock whip with a sharp and sudden dash, and off into the mountain scrub they flew. Then fast the horsemen followed, where the gorges, deep and black, resounded to the thunder of their tread, and their stock whips woke the echoes, and they fiercely answered back from the cliffs and crags that beetled overhead. Up and up the mountainside the horses held their way, where the stringy ash and kurrajong grow wide, and the old man muttered fiercely, "We can bid that mob good day. No man can hold them down the other side." When they reached the summit, even Clancy took a pull. It well might make the boldest hold his breath, for the wild hop scrub grew thickly, and the hidden ground was full of wombat holes, and any slip was death. But the man from Snowy River let his pony have its head. He swung his stock whip wide and gave a cheer, and then raced him down the mountain like a torrent down its bed, while the others stood and watched in very fear. He sent the flint stones flying, but his pony kept its feet. He cleared the fallen timber in a stride, and the man from Snowy River never shifted in his seat. It was grand to see that mountain horseman ride. Through the stringy bark and sapling, crossed the rough and broken ground, down the mountain at a racing pace he went, and he never pulled the bridle till he landed safe and sound at the bottom of that terrible descent. He was right among the horses as they climbed the farther hill, and the watchers on the mountain, standing mute, saw him ply his stock whip fiercely. He was right among them still as they raced across a clearing in pursuit. Then they lost him for a moment, where two mountain gullies met, but in the distance a final glimpse reveals, on a dim and hazy hillside, the wild horses racing yet, with the man from Snowy River at their heels. And he ran them single-handed till their sides were whited with foam. He followed like a bloodhound on their track till they halted, cowed and beaten. Then he turned their heads for home, and alone and unassisted brought them back. His hardy mountain pony could scarcely raise a trot. He was blood from hip to shoulder from the spur, but his pluck was still undaunted and his courage fiery hot, for never yet was mountain horse a cur. Now down by Kosciuszko, where the pine-clad ridges raise their torn and ragged battlements on high, where the air is clear as crystal and the bright stars fairly blaze at midnight from the cold and frosty sky, where around the overflow the reed beds sweep and sway, where the overflow and the rolling plains grow wide, the man from Snowy River is a household word today, and the stockmen tell the story of his ride. That's good enough.